The following program is brought to you by Wightman TV. All content in the Stay Strong, Live Long Falls Prevention Education series has been created for informational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified healthcare provider with any questions you have regarding a medical condition. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard on this television production.
Welcome to our Stay Strong, Live Long Falls Prevention Education series, brought to you by the VON, the Upper Grand Family Health Team, and our community partners. I want to start off by saying that falling is the leading cause of injury-related death among seniors, and it is the #1 contributor to loss of independent living. In fact, 1 in 3 seniors 65 years and older will fall each year, and having one fall doubles one's chance to fall again. It is our hope that through this Wightman Telecom production that we can change these statistics in Wellington County, empowering our community with the knowledge and the tools we need to prevent future falls. Today's session includes the topic of muscle health, and this is brought to you by Kelly G. from the VON. Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you, Julie. So yes, today I am here to talk about muscle health. So why do you think that it would be good to talk about muscle health? Does anybody?
It's what helps keep us strong, perhaps?
It does. It helps keep us strong. Absolutely. We actually use our muscles for every single thing we do throughout the day. We use them from the moment we get out of bed to putting on our clothes to going for a walk. We use those muscles every single day. And a lot of times when I'm actually talking to people and I'm talking to them about, the importance of building muscles, they think, I don't really want to look like, if you look to the screen here, you'll see a big, bulky Arnold Schwarzenegger with those bulging muscles. And they think, really, I'm no interest in becoming that strong. And then they think realistically, I kind of look like this little person, if you're looking on the right there, that doesn't really have too many muscles at all. And it's not about building big muscles, but it's at least about maintaining the muscles that we do have. Because if we think about it, in every single motion that we do throughout our day, we're actually using muscles, right? When we, if I was to reach for these brochures and pick them up, I'm using my arm muscle. If I was to reach for a bottle of water, I'm gonna grasp it with my fingers, I'm gonna use my arm muscles to bring it up to my mouth, and then when I swallow, I'm actually gonna use those muscles in my throat. Every single time I breathe, I actually contract my diaphragm, which is a muscle. When I walk, if I walk and I go down and actually have to take a step down a curb and I come back, I'm using those muscles in my legs. And then we also have a very, very, very important muscle that lies right in our chest. And I think that most of you would know what this muscle is. It is our most important muscle. It is the pump to our body. It helps to deliver that oxygenated blood or that fuel, those nutrients, to those vital organs and to those working muscles. And without this pump working, we wouldn't be living. So it's really important that not only that we work all of our muscles, but by working those muscles, we can actually strengthen this heart muscle. But more specifically today, I'm not going to talk about those involuntary muscles. I'm going to talk about voluntary muscles, and those are our skeletal muscles. And when I talk about skeletal muscles, those are the muscles that actually attach to our bones. So if you draw your attention to the screen, you'll see here that we have a picture. Most of you might be familiar with our upper arm muscle called a bicep. And our bicep and most muscles cross two joints. So it actually attaches up into our shoulder joint or our scapula. And again, to one of the arm bones in our lower arm, our radius bone. And basically what this muscle does is it helps to bring, we have our joint in the middle there, and it helps to bring two bones together, right? So as we bring our arm up towards our shoulder, we contract this muscle, and that allows us to do that movement, right? So the contraction of this muscle, or those muscle fibers just getting shorter, allows us to do this movement. And the more weight that we put in that hand, the stronger, the more resistance we create there, the more we can build this muscle. So our bodies, they are these amazing, amazing machines. And not like most machines, the harder we work our body or the more we use our body, the actual better it becomes, the more efficient it becomes. I only wish my car was like my body. However, most people would rather go for a drive over the age of 65 than they would to go for a walk. But it's wonders what we can do for our bodies if we continue to use them. And typically, as we age, so in saying that it's very important that we continue to use those muscles, but usually as we age, or the majority of people, according to statistics, over the age of 65, become less active, which leads to a loss of muscle mass each year. And so if our muscles are the ones that provide our movement, then this becomes problematic if we are becoming less active, because as we know, if we don't use it, then we'll lose it. So those muscles will become weaker over time. In fact, we lose 5 to 10% of muscle mass every decade after the age of 40. And that rate significantly increases after the age of 65. And so what do you think that means? So, if we lose muscle mass, what do you think that means? What else does that put us at risk for?
Arthritis.
You can have joint problems as well. Absolutely, it could lead to joint problems.
Balance.
It could also lead to problems with our balance, because as our muscles become weaker, again, our ability to recover from those episodes of being imbalanced are decreased as well. So our sense of balance comes from those sensory systems, but our ability to recover from moments of being imbalanced comes from those muscles. So for example, particularly in our legs, if we were to have a moment of being imbalanced, like a trip, we need to use that power and that strength in order to recover. Even just a slight sway to the side, what happens is our muscles, our opposite muscles, contract and react to bring us back to center, right? And if we don't have strong muscles, then our ability to do that is diminished, and our chance of falling or ending up on the ground is quite significantly higher. However, so it's very important that we continue to work these muscles every day and continue to improve our muscle mass and our muscle strength. So on the slide, if I could just direct your attention here to the slide, it shows along the vertical axis there that you'll see muscle mass and muscle strength. And along the bottom there, the horizontal line there, that is our age. And basically what you can see here is that, as we start out in life as a child, we continue to build muscle mass over time until we reach about the age of 30 to approximately 35. And then at that point, we reach our peak muscle mass. And as you can see here, that if you don't exercise, and I'm stressing if you do not exercise, then you can lose that muscle mass over time. And as I just mentioned earlier, 5 to 10% each decade if you didn't exercise. However, there was real data, real studies that actually showed about how much exercise can influence that rate of loss. And if you look at the slide now, you will see that this line at the top is a study they did over a person's life that had continued to exercise. And what you can see on the slide is that, you know, they had minimal loss over that lifespan. So basically, they were able to maintain and to do all of those things that they were able to do when they were 35, 40 years old. They continued to be able to do that throughout their lifespan. And you can too, if you take the time and the energy to exercise. There was also another study done, and a lot of people think, you know, well, that's great. They continued to do that over their lifetime. They were probably really active, you know, their whole life, and it's really easy for them if you just continue. But now I'm, you know, 60 years old or 65 or maybe 70 years old, maybe 80, maybe 90. And you think, you know what, you know, it's a little bit too late for me to start this. And what I'm going to tell you now is that there was a study done, and I honestly, I can't remember what university it was from. However, they took two groups of people. One group was 20 to 30 years of age, and the other group was 70 to 80 years of age. And they took these two groups, they gave them each training programs or strength training programs, and they had them do these programs for a period of 12 weeks. And at the end of the 12 weeks, what they found is that their actual rate of improvement and strength improvement was exactly the same. So regardless of your age, you can still have strength improvement, right? So, you know, whether or not that means you're 65, you've never worked out, or maybe you did work out and you're 70 and you just had a fall, you can still have those same gains as you could when you're 20. So that is why it's so important to work on that strength. And I am going to show you a clip here, a video of this lady, Ernest Shepherd, and her story is quite remarkable. Just want you to watch this for one moment.
My name is Ernestine Shepherd. I am 79 years of age. I was the oldest female competitive bodybuilder in 2011 and also 2010. I am a personal trainer. I also like to model, and also I just love to sing at church. At age 56, I had a sister. She too was 57. We were invited to a church picnic, and then we heard other ladies talking, and they were stating that they were going to a certain place to exercise. So we started working out. We noticed a change in our bodies. After we saw that change, wow, the instructor said, you ladies need to start lifting weights. We did. When we started lifting the weights, again we saw another change. And my sister said, you know what we're going to do? We're going to try to inspire and motivate other seniors the importance of living a healthy, happy, positive lifestyle by exercising, eating correctly, getting in plenty of cardio, and number one, you have to do it with prayer. But she said to me, you know what we're going to do? We're going to be in the Guinness Book of World Records, and maybe we'll make Ripley's Believe It or Not. We got to the hospital, they examined her, and she had a brain aneurysm, and my sister died immediately. I went back to the gym, and I started working out. I did the things that she wanted.
So I sat down, designed a program. Because she lived an hour away from me, we were going to start training online. I sent her the program, but she was dedicated, and she started sending pictures, and I started looking at the pictures, and I started noticing the progress, and I said, you're doing really good. I want you to start coming to my center. I got excited to watch this lady body transform. Well, 7 months later, I told her, I think you're ready to go compete. So I took her to a show, but I knew there would be some other older competitors in the show. So she entered into the master category, and she was the oldest one of all of them. Because the other women were like 45, 50, she was 71. She made a mark. She won that show. Even though she's old enough to be my grandma, I saw her as my little kid. I was proud. I was like, you know, look at my little kid take their first step. Because I was just honored to be the one to help her realize a dream.
What motivates me? What keeps me on this fitness road? My sister still motivates me.
It is never too late to, as you can see from Ernest Shepard there, it is never too late to increase your muscle mass. It doesn't matter at what age we start. So how do you think the best way to increase that muscle mass would be? What do you think the greatest intervention might be?
Well, do exercising and walking. And
Absolutely. Exercise. Exercise in any form or shape is going to help with that muscle mass, right? So, but how? How are we going to exercise, right? We're going to, again, particularly important in order to work our muscles is resistance type training. The physical activity guidelines mentioned that you should be doing strength training at least 2 times a week. So often what I'll get from people is that they will say, you know, well, I walk every single day, so I don't need to do any further exercise, or I don't need to come to an exercise class. And I'm never going to say don't walk. If that's all you choose to do, then continue to do it. All I would say is that if you can incorporate some upper body strength exercises, it would be really helpful, because as walking is one of the most functional exercises that we do, it doesn't actually work on any of that upper body strength. Pole walking, in fact, does. However, strength training, you need to actually do some sort of resistance training. We do have a couple of exercise programs within the VON. We have one in which we can have a volunteer or a staff member that can come right into your home. We do 14 different exercises with you, and we'll work with you on a one-to-one basis. And the hopes is at the end of that program, we can either maintain your abilities and you will continue to do those exercises on your own, or we can transition you into one of our group classes. And we have a number of group classes existing within the community. And at the end of this presentation, there will be a contact number that you can call if you would wish to find out where the locations and times of those classes are. And in every single one of our SMART classes, we do a resistance component. However, if you're at home and you're saying, you know, I can't get out of the house, I can't get to these exercise classes, what could I do at home? And so now when people think about resistance training, typically they think about using weights, right? And I would always encourage, especially if you're at home and you're starting out with weights, I always encourage, you know, that you would maybe just start with one weight at a time so that you can really concentrate on that muscle. Make sure that you feel it in the muscle when you're working it. So, you know, a lot of times too, people will be like, well, I don't have, you know, maybe a lot of money, or I don't want to purchase this. Weights themselves, usually typically anywhere that you purchase them, approximately are about $1 a pound. So a 2-pound weight, which this is, would cost approximately $2. So in order to get 2 weights, it would be approximately $4. And so as you increase the weight, obviously the price would go up. So just a very typical exercise you could do if you had a hand weight is our bicep curl. And again, you just want to ensure that you have your elbow nice and close to your side. You're going to bring up that wrist towards your shoulder. And again, squeezing it just at the top as you come up to the top. And then once again, bringing that arm all the way down and extending that muscle. So if you know, so maybe weights are what you want to use, and if that's what you choose to use, that's great. There are some other equipment that we can use, and we always make modifications and adaptations within the VON Smart Exercise Program, as well as you can buy these types of equipment in, you know, any store. You can also, the dollar store sells a lot of balls like this. This one is actually from Western, the Canadian Centre for Activity and Aging. You can order those online as well. These are $2.50 per per ball. And again, we can work that same muscle, the same bicep muscle if we wanted to, by just putting that ball in the arm and just squeezing up. That's going to work the bicep. Or another way, we could just put it on our shoulder and squeeze down. That's another way to work that bicep. So there are many, many different exercises that we can do with the ball. But today I'm just focusing on that bicep muscle, and I'm going to show you all the exercises you can do using different equipment on this one muscle. Some people that had physio, you might be familiar with a ThoroBand. Again, you can do a bicep curl. You can do this from a seated position if you want, probably safer if you have any balance problems, so sitting down in that chair. And again, you're just going to pull those arms up and down, and again, that's going to create that tension in that bicep muscle as well. So if you're at home and you're like, you know what, I actually, I don't have any of that stuff, I'm probably not going to get out to a store, you can always use something as simple as a can of beans. So here you go, using that as a weight, you can just bring that up and back down. And this is usually about 1 pound. So if you're to use a can of beans is about 1 pound. You don't even need equipment. So say, you know what, I don't want to use or I don't eat beans or soup or have any cans in my house at all. Might be the case. You can actually create resistance using your imagination. So just imagine that you have 2 heavy bags, and as you're bringing them up, you're going to contract those muscles. And then you're going to bring them back down. So just by using your imaginations, you can work those muscles. And I prefer to do exercises like that myself, because you can do them anywhere. If you're waiting, if you're waiting for a ride to pick you up, maybe from VON or maybe a family member, you're in between commercials, you can just create that tension and bring it back down, and all of a sudden you've done an exercise. And the last little exercise that I'm going to show you, because it is the most important exercise that you can maintain throughout your life, is getting up from a chair, or what we call a sit to stand. So I'm going to start with sitting in the chair, and I'm going to cue you from there. If you have armrests, you want to make sure that you're using them if you require them. You want to come to the edge of your chair, making sure that those knees are over top of those ankles, that there's a nice 90-degree there, right at that knee joint. And then what we're going to do is we're going to use those armrests. We're going to hinge forward, keeping our eyes and our chest forward, and trying to push the majority of our weight in through our heels, so that again, if we were ever to fall down, we're going to fall back in the chair, not onto our toes and onto the floor. The same way we come up, we come back down. So find those armrests, and you're going to come back down, pushing that weight through those heels. We don't ever want you to be plopping down in the chair. If you are, then that shows that there is a problem, and you should work on this exercise a little bit more. But yes, that brings it to the end of those exercises. Also with exercise, another real key vital point in order to building muscles is actually fueling them properly. So make sure that you are getting your recommended dose of protein every single day, because without your recommended dose of protein, you're not going to be able to build your muscles, because that's the fuel, that is what they need in order to grow. And if you have seen some of the other presentations, Amy Way has mentioned lots of expert advice about the recommended amount of protein and great sources in which you can get protein. So thank you very much.
So today's session includes the topic of mobility aids, and our guest speakers are Joanne Van Leeuwen, and she is an occupational therapist through Care Partners, and she's most often accessed in our community through the Community Care Access Center, so that's CCAC. And with her is Amanda Froese, and she is also an occupational therapist, and Amanda works with the Upper Grand Family Health Team here for Centre Wellington. So thank you both, and we'll get started.
You're welcome. Thanks, Julie. So as Julie mentioned, today we're going to be talking about mobility aids. And so my name's Amanda Froese, and like Julie said, I'm the occupational therapist here with the Upper Grand Family Health Team.
And I'm Joanne Van Loo, and I'm an occupational therapist with Care Partners. And occupational therapists assess safety and function in the home and make recommendations so that your safety and function in the home is improved, which in turn improves your quality of life.
Great. So, in talking about mobility aids, first we want to talk about what is a mobility aid. A mobility aid is really anything that helps you to be able to get around more safely and independently. Today we're going to be focusing mostly on walkers and canes, but mobility aids can also include wheelchairs or power wheelchairs as well. So when we have difficulty walking on our own, these mobility aids can help us to be more safe. And really, our goal is to be able to help you to be more independent with your mobility and to prevent falls. So the only way that these mobility aids work is if they're fit to you. Everybody's different, has different abilities and things that might be helpful for them. So things that fit you properly and when they're used properly. So the next thing we're going to chat about is why we might use a mobility aid. So if you're someone who often feels dizzy or unsteady on their feet, if you find that you've lost a lot of strength, especially in your leg muscles, if your vision is decreased, so you're not able to see your environment as well. And oftentimes one of the hallmarks that we see is people who are moving around their homes, holding onto walls, furniture, and different things for support. Oftentimes people will have a path that they like to take around their home because they can grab a couch here, a wall here, or as they move around their home to feel more steady. Another thing is if you have some sore joints, so that can make you feel less steady on your feet and less confident. So really we want to make sure that we talk about mobility aids that will fit you and be able to help you feel steady on your feet. So now Joanne's going to talk to us a little bit about walkers to start.
Okay, so you'll want to actually, when you're using a mobility aid, especially with a walker, is you'll have to have the proper height. So when you're looking at the proper height of your walker, you want to make sure that the top of the handle is actually but actually matching the crease in your wrist, so that when you're holding onto the walker handle, your elbows are at a slight bend. And then with maintaining the walker or looking at the walker integrity, you want to make sure that the brakes are secure. So when you're putting the brakes on, you want to make sure that the wheels do not move when you're actually pushing the walker with the brakes on. Some people will actually just turn the wheel to make sure that the brakes are secure. If the brakes are not secure, then that actually increases your risk for falls. So therefore, we would recommend that you would go to a medical supply store, have them tighten the brakes so that they're secure for you. In using a walker, you want to make sure that your feet are between the hind wheels at all time, not only when you're walking straight, but also when you're turning. And you want to make sure that the walker does not get too far ahead of you, because that significantly increases your risk for falls also. So you want to make sure when you're walking that you're actually keeping your feet between the hind wheels. If you find that the walker does get too far ahead of you, there are slow down brakes that can be attached to a walker, and that increases the friction so that the walker doesn't get too far ahead of you. Definitely talk to a therapist if you're finding you have this kind of problem. Amanda's going to talk to us about when you're going to be sitting in a chair or other seating surface, how to use a walker safely.
So when you're walking with a walker and you're planning to sit down, the first thing you want to make sure is that you have a good seating surface to move to. So if you look behind me here, this chair is great because it has two arms. Sometimes the seating surfaces that you're using won't be able to have that, but making sure that you have a good chair to be able to sit in. The next thing is when you come up to the chair, like Joanne said, making sure that your feet are within the wheels of the walker as you're turning. And you'll want to be able to feel the chair right behind your legs. The next thing, and probably the most important things, is to always make sure that your brakes are on your walker so that it can't get away from you at this point. So when you're going to sit down, oftentimes we'll see people hold on to their walker to use for support when they sit down. We really want you to avoid this as much as possible. It's not steady at all for that. I want you to rely on the surface that you're going to for the support. So as you go to sit down, that you can reach for the arms of the chair and use the chair to be able to take your weight and to support you. Then you can release the brakes on your walker, move it out of the way so that if you're sitting at a table or anything like that, that you can do the things that you need to be able to do. When you're going to stand up from a chair then as well, it's quite similar. So again, the first step is to make sure that you have those brakes on so that your walker isn't going anywhere away from you. Next, again, we want to avoid pulling on the walker because that's something that's not steady and that it's likely to tip on you. So avoid holding onto the walker until you're in standing. So again, pushing from the surface that you're leaving from. If you don't have arms on a chair, if you're getting up from, say, a bed or a couch, different things like that, you can also push from where you're sitting on. And in that case, sometimes it's helpful to scoot your bum forward. So I'll move the walker a little bit further from myself. And to be able to push right from the arms of the chair and then reach for your walker once you're standing. So again, the main points are to make sure that you have the brakes on whenever you're parking your wheel, or whenever you're parking your walker, and to always use the chair for support. The other place that people like to sit, and it's great if there's no chair around, is the seat on your walker. So we want to make sure when you're sitting on your walker seat that, again, brakes first before you turn around, and you can use the handles of your walker at this point because you're right above them to be able to sit down. One thing Joanne and I wanted to highlight here though was that the back strap of your walker is not meant to be a backrest. So you don't want to be leaning and lounging in your walker. It's just meant to be there as a bit of a guide so you know where the edge of your walker is. Mm-hmm. So these can actually break if you put too much weight on them, so we want to avoid leaning on those. And whenever you're sitting on your walker, please make sure that the brakes are locked the whole time. And so when you're going to stand up, again, you can use the handles of your walker for support. Turn around to use it and unlock the brakes and begin to walk around just like Joanne had shown you earlier. So we're going to put our walker aside and park it over here while Joanne talks to us a little bit about how to use a cane.
Okay, so cane is similar to a walker, or I should say not just similar, it's the same. When you're standing up as tall as you can, the top of the cane should match the crease in your wrist. So that's how to check. And then when you're grasping the cane, that your elbow is at a slight bend. The cane is always used in the hand opposite to your involved leg. So the leg that is weaker, the leg that is sore. So right now, my good leg is the right leg, my involved leg is the left leg. So when I'm going to be walking, the cane is going to be supporting my weaker leg. So as I'm stepping forward, the cane goes with the weaker leg. For checking integrity of the cane, you want to make sure that the tip is pliable, that it's not cracked or worn. If it is, go to any hardware supply store to buy a new tip and replace it. There's many different types of grips on cane. You just need to choose one that you find more comfortable for you. And next, we're going to actually show you how to use a cane on stairs. We don't have stairs here, but we have a stool. So don't try this at home, but Amanda's going to actually support me as I show you how to use a cane when going up and down the stairs without railings. So there's a saying when you use the stairs is that the good go up and the bad go down. So when you're faced with going up a stairs, your good leg leads. So right now, my right leg is my good leg, so I'm going to lead first with my right leg, and then I'm going to actually go up with my bad leg and bring the cane up to the next step. Coming down the stairs, your bad leg leads, but you want to support your bad leg with the cane. So the cane goes down, then the bad leg, and then the good leg. So that actually is shows you how the good go up and the bad go down, is how we remember how to use a cane on the stairs. So Amanda's going to actually then now show us or talk to us about when to use a walker or a cane.
So we talked a little bit about what a mobility device is, how to fit it to yourself, and how to use it. But now we want to talk about, well, when would I use a mobility aid? And if you find that you need to use a mobility aid like a cane or a walker some of the time, we would recommend that you actually use it all of the time. There's not a circumstance where you might need it in one place but not the other. So whether that's, we think about all the time as being even at night. So if you're getting up to go to the washroom in the middle of the night, make sure that you have your cane or your walker parked at your bedside so that you can use it during that time. The other part of that is both inside and outside the home. So whether that means that you might have to have one that you keep outside at the bottom of the stairs and inside at the top of the stairs, so you don't have to carry it in or out, depending on what your entrance looks like. Some people say that they find they only need it for longer distances or when they're out and about in the community, but we'd say have one inside as well. And this is, we really like to think that it reduces your risk of falls, and the risk of a fall isn't worth it. So to use it inside, you might have to rearrange some of that furniture that you were using to hold on to, using to maneuver around your place so that you have enough space for either a wheelchair, so you can test it by going in and out of rooms of your house, going down beside your bed, those kinds of things, or also enough space that you have to be able to use your cane at your side as well. So in addition to having a proper fit with your walker, it's also important that you wear proper footwear when using a mobility aid. It will do you much better if you're also wearing proper footwear at the same time. So that means shoes with a good sole on them that are done up properly, and especially that have really good grip on them in the winter time.
So if you need actually help setting up a mobility aid or choosing one that is the most appropriate for you, talk to your doctor, or you can actually call the CCAC and ask for a referral for a balance and mobility assessment, and the number will be on the screen. And just some take-homes. One, mobility aids can significantly reduce your risk of falls, which in turn increases your quality of life, can help you to stay in your home longer. And fit and proper use of a mobility aid is really important, and certainly speak to your doctor or contact the CCAC for an assessment to determine what mobility aid is the most appropriate for you. So thanks for your time, and if you have any questions, just talk to your doctor or call the CCAC. So the question was that walkers can be actually pretty bulky and awkward to get in and out of your car. So what are some strategies to help you with that? With this walker, it's you need to remove the basket. So they do fold up. You need to remove the basket. And you can grab the handle to actually fold it up, and it's better to carry it like this. Now, if you're really unsteady, it is actually better to have a caregiver help you take it in and out of the vehicle. Some people will put it in the back seat of their vehicles, some people will put it in the trunk. There are walkers that actually also fold up into the middle, so that once you fold it up, it actually remains standing. And I don't have a sample to show you, but then it's a little bit easier to actually fold it up and not have to keep it folded up.
Easier to carry it because when you pop up, when it folds up from the middle, it pops up just like this, and you can roll it at your side if you're steady enough to do that. Otherwise, it's easier for a caregiver to move around and get into the back seat.
Okay. So once again, you can actually ask a therapist to help you strategize around that.
So is it okay to use, if you've got a walker that's been handed down to you from someone else, is it okay to use that?
So the question is, can you use a walker that's actually been handed down from someone else, or if you found a used one in the community? Certainly there are some walkers that are of good integrity that have been handed down, but you want to make sure that they're fitted for you and that you've had the integrity of the walker checked out. And any medical supply store or therapist can help you out with that.
Yeah, so like we talked about that before, all walkers adjust differently by height, usually at the side. And then the first thing you want to do, even before you pick up a walker from a friend or family member, is to check the brakes and to do that little test that Joanne showed earlier to make sure that the brakes are working, or to see if they can be tightened. Sometimes used walkers, even when the brakes are tightened, can't be tightened enough. So you want to have that checked out
that
before you use it.
The wheels are worn so much that the brakes are not secure enough for safety, and to replace the wheels on the walker is more expensive than getting a new walker. So you would definitely be, it would be more advantageous to look at a new walker, and there is funding for walkers.
When your brakes have worn away or just need to be tightened and you need to bring them to, was it a home health or?
A medical supply store, yeah.
Is there a charge for that? Will they
Yes.
charge you?
Okay, so the question is, when the brakes need to be tightened, is there a charge at a medical supply store for that? Yes, there is, and each medical supply store will have a different charge, so it's best to call ahead. If you're not able to go to a medical supply store to have the brakes tightened, then they will also come out to your home. That would certainly increase the cost since they will have to travel to your home. There's also walker clinics in the area that a vendor will go and provide a service to people living at those homes to tighten your brakes and check out the integrity.
There's some canes that have feet on it. Like, that doesn't, but I see.
Yes. So,
So the question was, there's lots of different types of canes, and some of them have a wider base or more feet, different things like that.
yeah. So you can have what's called a quad cane that have more feet on it at a wider base. And in those situations, we would definitely recommend that you actually speak to your doctor or call the CCAC and specifically ask for a referral for a therapist to do a balance and mobility assessment to see what cane is the most appropriate for you, if the cane is appropriate, or you may need to look at a walker which provides more support.
You were saying that there is funding, I believe government funding available for the purchase of assistive devices.
Yeah.
If someone needed to access that funding, is the CCAC or an occupational therapist in the community able to help with that application for that funding?
So the question is in relation to funding for walkers and canes. There's no funding for canes, but definitely there is funding for a walker, and it's called the Assistive Devices Program, which covers 75% of the cost of a new walker. And there are therapists who are what we call ADP authorizers, who can actually help you choose the most appropriate aid for you, and then fill out the paperwork to apply to the government for funding.
And how do you access an ADP?
Okay, so to access an ADP authorizer, you can certainly call the CCAC and ask for a balance and mobility assessment. Vendors will also have a list of therapists who are ADP authorizers, and so you can certainly call a vendor and they will direct you to an authorizer. So the question is about whether or not a walking stick can be appropriate if you're in need of a cane. Certainly walking sticks are becoming much more popular, and medical supply stores are actually carrying those too. And it will depend once again on your balance and your function, whether or not a walking stick provides enough support for you, or if you need a different mobility aid. So if you have a question in relation to that, I would direct you to a therapist who can do a specific assessment for you.
Well, thank you very much, Joanne and Amanda. That was fabulous. I hope you guys viewing at home found the information as helpful and informative as I did. If you would like more information about mobility aids, please just stay tuned to the end of the show and their contact information will be shown. The glory is not in never falling, but in rising every time we do. It takes a community to prevent a fall. Thank you.
For more information about the free, smart, gentle exercise programs in your area, check out the Vaughan Smart website at www.vonsmartexercise.com or contact Smart Program Coordinator Kelly G by phone 519-323-2330 extension 4954 or by email at kelly.gee@von.ca. The preceding program was brought to you by Wightman TV and Bruce Telecom.